Good morning or afternoon or evening or whatever time it is, wherever you are. Um, Good to see you. Glad you're here. It looks like Eddie's in the chat already. If you're in the chat, say hello. Or if you're watching, say hello in the chat just so we can recognize that you're here and say hello back. So, good to see you, Eddie. Excuse me. The morning of weekend is an interesting time. I'm gonna be drinking some coffee this morning. I don't normally sleep in necessarily very late, but I do enjoy kind of a relaxing morning on Saturdays a lot of the times. Although that's going to change here now, starting this week as my one of my sons has basketball. So that'll be interesting. It'll be fun. All right, 4 p.m. in Ghana. Awesome. Colorado. Awesome. Hey James, good to have you here. Yeah, so it's not too bad. 4 p.m. in Ghana. Hopefully this time works well for everybody. I'm more of a night person, so for me it would be better to be at night, but I'm willing to get up on a Saturday morning and hang out with you guys. Again, I don't know what we're gonna do next month because of basketball games, so that might change next month. But we are here this morning, so hopefully you guys are excited to talk about some things. Maybe you have some questions. So if you do have questions, go ahead and leave them in the chat. Don't put them on the video comments. Put them in the chat. So if you're watching this later on, obviously you can put them in the comments, and I'll see them there, and maybe answer them on a future video or answer them just there in the comment section as well. But if you have any questions, put it in the chat. Put like a bunch of like question marks in front of it or something that just makes it really obvious that it's a question. Because what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go through a few things, um, just kind of that I want to go through here, just over the course of some of the things that we've done in the community and just some of the topics that we talked about and just some of where we're going here in 2024. I know I did that a little bit on the on a previous live stream and also in a video, but I just wanted to kind of cover a little bit more of that again this morning as well. So um so yeah, welcome. That's what we'll be doing today. But I will get to questions at the end. So if you have something specific that you wanted to ask here on the live stream, put some questions in the live stream. Add some question marks just so we know. I can go back through and find those faster, because it's just a one man show here. So I'll have to scrape through the chat here as we go. Um, I think I know that Eddie is a subscriber, but if you are watching this and you're not a subscriber, if you would hit the subscribe button, you should see down here at the bottom some things scrolling through. I've been playing around trying to add some things, trying to learn this whole YouTube thing and how I can do it maybe a little bit better moving forward, but not just for videos, but for live stream and things like that. So we'll see how this goes, how this goes moving forward. But yeah, if you are not a subscriber, click the subscribe button. That way you get notified whenever we go live like this. My guess is probably those of you that are here are subscribers, because you've seen the notifications already, and you're here at the beginning, so you're probably already subscribers. But I might mention this a couple times as we go through here this morning, afternoon, evening. But you also notice, so down here there's going to be reminders to subscribe, reminders to like, if you would like the live stream, just so we can again let Google know people are interested in this and help it kind of push it out to other people who might be interested as well. So hit the like button, and then if you're not in the Discord channel and you're looking for a community of junior developers and hopefully eventually someday some more senior developers besides me, to just for a place to interact and ask questions and just hang out and not be judged basically on what you're asking, but get some real help here and there throughout the day. I do check in on that fairly periodically. I try to keep it up and running so I can get notifications if somebody leaves something in there, but it just depends on how busy I am with work and things like that as well. So So if you're not in the Discord channel, jump in the Discord channel. There's a link to that. Excuse me. There's a link to that in the description down on the live stream here on the video. So there should be a link there. If that link doesn't work for some reason, let me know, and I'll take a look at it. It should be available forever. So Discord does this weird thing where they let you like set a time limit on the link availability. So whatever, I'm sure there's a purpose for it, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Let's talk about some poll discussions. As many of you know, I've put up a few polls over the last month or so, and so I just wanted to see. I've got Abdurrahman. Hopefully, Abdurrahman. Sorry, I butchered your name. It's probably, hopefully that was close. If you have a name that you think might be difficult for me, and you have like a nickname or a shortened name, leave it in there, just so I can call you by that and not totally mess up your name. Hopefully in the future. From Ethiopia, awesome. So we've got Ethiopia and Ghana and Colorado. That's cool. Thanks for jumping on. What was I saying? Oh, polls. So we have several polls that are up on the community part of the not the live stream, of the YouTube channel. So if you go to the community tab of the YouTube channel, you'll see the polls there. If you're subscribed, you're probably getting notifications already about the polls when they come out. But I just wanted to draw your attention to those because we're gonna talk about some of those things here this morning, and just kind of look at some of the interesting things that I found interesting. I know some of those are probably answered by junior developers. Some of them are probably answered by senior developers. I try to push people to this channel from my LinkedIn profile, and I have a lot of friends and former coworkers and things like that on there. So I'm sure there's a lot of senior devs that participate in some of these polls too. But I want to let you know I'm actually going to keep these polls open for the future, because the data, as we get more subscribers, as we get more people participating, that data might change. And so it'll just be interesting to kind of see how those polls might change over time. So if you're watching this, weeks, months, years later, those polls might still be there. You might be able to still find them. I don't know, but feel free to go back and add your opinion to those polls if you have any. But one of the reasons why the main reason why we're meeting here on Saturday morning for me is, and even earlier Saturday morning for James out there in Colorado. He's an hour behind me. So, is that we had a poll about a month ago. Let me switch screens here. And the basic question was, what's the best time to live stream? So this was the overwhelming majority response was a Saturday morning, which was kind of surprised me a little bit, because I don't know a lot of people who like to get up and watch live streams on Saturday morning. But hey, again, I know we have a lot of people who are not in the United States who watch this channel, so it makes sense that something like this might work a little bit better for you all as well. But so this might change again over time. We'll see. If this fluctuates over time, we might switch to a different day. It's interesting. The day that I would have preferred is the one that got 0 votes. So I guess I'm not very in tune with everybody else, apparently. So, but yeah, Monday evening would have been my preference, but nobody else's apparently. So we scratched that one pretty early there. So we'll try to do Saturday mornings moving forward as much as we can. Obviously, again, I mentioned earlier, we've got my son's basketball is usually in the mornings on Saturdays, because he's not professional. So he doesn't play on Friday nights or whenever the actual high school teams play. It's an intramural game. So Saturday mornings we're going to attempt to do that and work around that schedule and be here for that. So that's poll number 1. That's why we're here this morning, because the people have spoken. And so because the people have spoken, that's what we're going to try to do. I want to be as accommodating as I can be as we go here. So poll number 2. This one was an interesting poll. This was a more recent one. So this one is a question about my health journey, and I won't spend a lot of time here because it's pretty obvious that most people don't really want to hear about it. So, but a few people were interested. So I think what I'm going to do is I might just do some posts here in the community channel on it, and not spend a lot of time in video or on live stream and things like that. Basically, um, I'm not extremely obese, but I need to lose some weight, and so it's always nice to have some accountability. And I do have some friends that will hold me accountable, but yeah. So if you're interested in that, feel free to like those posts as I put them up. Feel free to comment on them and encourage me if you wouldn't mind along the way, because losing weight and getting in shape and exercising and all that stuff is not something that I enjoy. Um, and so I'd appreciate any help along the way that you would be able to offer. So feel free to like those, feel free to dislike them, whatever. Dislike if I'm failing. But yeah, so I'll probably try to keep that on the community page and not bring that into the videos and live streams in the future, unless people ask me a specific question about it, like how's it going or something like that. So so that's poll number 2, weight loss journey. We'll leave that, keep that on the down low, since the people have spoken there as well. Another one that was one of the earlier polls that I put out here was this question: what are you looking for in your first job as a junior developer? And I actually had mixed ideas of what the results of this would be. Obviously, these are kind of the 3 main things that I would assume people were looking for. So validation, simply meaning, hey, I want to know that I can actually do this in the real world and be a developer. So validation, that was actually the lowest one. So I'm not 100% surprised that that was the lowest one, but you never know. It's interesting. It did get some votes. So it's obvious that there are some of you out there who want to get that first job just to prove that you can do the job. And honestly, I think if you put in the effort and you're learning and you are seeing yourself grow in your learning, you don't need validation from a job. You've already validated it. You've already proven that you can do something, especially on your own. You don't really need a job for validation. So that's probably why that was one of the lower ones there. But I was surprised that pay increase wasn't a little bit higher. I'm actually glad that it wasn't, but I'm a little bit surprised. I know, especially some of you guys that are overseas, maybe who don't have as many opportunities to gain a really good income. I know even unfortunately, though United States people especially can kind of take advantage of foreign developers at times, it's still a lot of times even better money than other things that you could be doing, or the same job for people in your current company. But even here in the United States, the job of a developer is oftentimes much better pay wise than most other jobs. And honestly, other than like the stress and the frustration aspect of it, it's usually easier. You don't have the physical labor issue. And especially if you can do it remote, then you can do it from home. You don't have to get up and go to work every day necessarily and things like that. So, but pay increase is definitely one. And I was a little surprised it wasn't higher. But it's definitely a strong reason why people are looking for that first job, is hoping to get that pay increase. So, but the one that I was expecting to win, frankly, and the one I was hoping would win was this mentoring at 80%. And I was shocked that it was this high, but I'm really excited that it's this high, because for 2 reasons. One, that means that you guys understand really what is the most important thing that you need as a junior developer. And that is mentoring. You need somebody to come alongside you and to help you see the areas that you're blind to, that you just don't know. There's a saying, you don't know what you don't know, right? So having somebody come alongside you and talk to you about, the things that they're seeing, the shortcomings that they're seeing, or just encourage you in the things that you are doing well. Thanks, Cody. I'm excited that you're excited. Cody's a former coworker, so he's gonna give me trouble. I have a feeling here. And my mom. Oh, hey mom. So, um, so mentoring, obviously something that you absolutely need, and I'm glad that you guys are realizing that you need it. But also, it's exciting to me that you picked mentoring because that's what I'm here for, right? That's the whole purpose of this channel is to handle mentoring topics, is to be able to answer questions. So again, don't forget, if you have questions that you want me to try to answer, if we have time this morning, leave them in the chat here, and put some question marks or something in front of it, just so I can see that and um, know that that's there and recognize it as I scroll through here, as we get more chats potentially here. Okay, so class poll number 3. What are you looking for? I'm really excited that you guys are looking for mentoring. That's what we're here for. So number 4, this was the most recent poll. There it is. And again, I was really surprised by this. Front end versus back end. Now, I probably shouldn't have been as surprised, because if you're in the Discord channel, then you know that we had several people mention that they're kind of looking into, I think Laravel actually was the most common one, but they're looking into more back end stuff. We're actually going to be putting out a couple of videos next week for the Developer Odyssey series that are going to talk about kind of the differences between front end and back end, the pros and the cons, and what you need to know if you're just jumping into this world of development, if you're looking for that first job, trying to figure out what you should learn, kind of some of those basic ideas of the front end and the back end. And so it's really interesting that you guys picked, this is one of the higher number of votes. So we had 23 votes on this one. But that front end was only basically a quarter, was really interesting to me, because that's the thing that most boot camps focus on. That's the thing that most training centers are going to try to push you towards. They call it full stack, but really most of the time is spent on the front end stuff. The back end stuff is not really what you typically see a lot of time spent on. And even then, it's usually the same language. So it's usually Node or JavaScript. So that you don't really get into a lot of, honestly, some of the more popular ones. There was a poll that we had earlier talking about your favorite backend language, and mine's PHP, but like Python, they're not teaching Python in most boot camps that I know of. So they're kind of missing out on some of those things that real developers use. Not that real developers aren't doing Node. In fact, I think we've got a Node project at my job right now, but it's not necessarily the longest standing backend, the longest used backend. So it's just interesting to see that you guys are interested in the back end and are wanting to learn the back end. You might have seen a video that I posted maybe a month ago or so, talking about the benefits of the back end, and why you should love the back end. Maybe that swayed some of your opinion a little bit, but you have there's definitely oftentimes more earning potential if you know, especially if you know multiple back end languages. So it's just really cool. We'll definitely be looking at some back end development things as we go. I've got some things that I want to kind of go through here in this coming year that will include kind of walking through that process of learning some new things. So, and maybe how to go about doing that. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But again, if you are watching this live, if you would hit the like button, or if you're watching it later, hit the like button. Again, that just lets YouTube know that that people are interested in this content. And then if you're not subscribed, you're probably seeing the things scroll at the bottom here periodically. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button so you get notified the next time we go live. And then there's going to be a reminder down here about the Discord channel. So there should be a link in the description. If you're not in the Discord channel, hop in the Discord channel, and there's just more opportunities for us to interact throughout the week, whereas it's a little bit harder to do on comment sections and things like that. So what is the future of 2024? The future of 2024 for the Dev Mentor Dave YouTube channel. Well, the first thing is we're going to continue with the Developer Odyssey series. And obviously, I mentioned we've got front end and back end videos dropping next week. After that, we'll have videos on the topics of frameworks. What are they? What do you use them for? What are some of the popular ones specifically for front end, but we'll talk about a couple for the back end maybe as well. We're going to do a video on DevOps or developer operations. Yeah, I was afraid of that, Cody. Okay, I'll get that fixed up, guys. Sorry about that link not working. I set this up and I didn't realize that those things expire when I put that link in there, and I couldn't remember if I'd updated it or not. So, yeah, thanks, Cody. I don't want you in there, actually. No, just kidding. So, so we'll have a video on DevOps. If you don't know what that is, we'll explain kind of what DevOps is, and because that might be a route that you might be interested in as a developer, maybe more than even front end or back end development. We'll have a video on mobile development coming soon here. So those are kind of the topics that are coming in the Developer Odyssey series. And then there's a few other series that I'm looking forward to. On that are coming out maybe in the next few weeks. I don't know. It depends on what kind of time I have. Some of these I want to do more as live series. Some of them will just be video series. Most of you probably have seen the series that I put up on layoffs. It's just kind of a short series, about an hour or so total in videos. And I just wanted to kind of remind you that that's out there if you haven't seen it. Layoffs are just a reality of the dev world. One of the things I talk about there is that most developers spend about 2 years or less at a job. Sometimes that's because they leave for a better opportunity, and sometimes that's because they get laid off or let go. And it's not necessarily because they did anything wrong. There's lots of reasons for it. And feel free to go watch the video series. I'm not going to rehash it here. But that video series was kind of just a quick one shot. I did that in an afternoon and threw that up there. So we might do some series like that, but I'd like to do more series kind of like the Developer Odyssey series, where we're kind of doing it on a weekly basis. We're putting things out there, but so one of the ones that's been requested that I'm going to be doing here, hopefully in the first quarter of 2024, is finding your first job as a junior developer. So we're going to go through all kinds of things, such as, portfolio. Should you have a portfolio? What should be in your portfolio? Writing your resume. What should you put on your resume? Interview questions. What you should be looking for in a job. What are some other possibilities besides pursuing a specific job, what roles you should be looking for, all kinds of different topics, there on this idea of how do you get your first job, or maybe how to get your next job as a developer. Maybe some of you are watching this and you're like, I've been a developer for years, but job hunting is always difficult for me. Well, sometimes there's just periods of time where job hunting is hard, such as right now. We're just in a time where a lot of people are getting laid off. Job openings don't seem to be as prevalent as they used to be in the past. So sometimes it's just a matter of the situation, but there are some things that I think we could walk through and hopefully help you in your job search journey as well. So that's one of the series that we're going to be starting here, hopefully in Q1 of 2024. Another series, another series that I want to do is on mentoring. How do you find a mentor? What should you look for in a mentor? I did sort of a series of this back a long time ago, but I want to kind of jump into this in a little bit more detail, and hopefully answer some other questions that I've gotten on that topic along the way as well. If you have ideas for a specific video series topic, again, join the Discord when I fix the link. So join the Discord, and there is a section in the Discord server that is specifically for ideas for the live stream, ideas for the series, also for live stream, also for videos. So if you have ideas, questions, things that you think would make a good video, obviously feel free to throw those in there. You can always throw them in the comment sections of videos, throw them in the chat here, anything like that. And I do use that information to try to figure out what's going to be helpful, as well as just what's going on. That was kind of the whole impetus for the for the layoff video series was the fact that there's just lots of people getting laid off and lots of people dealing with it in different ways. So if you have ideas, questions, feel free to throw those in there as well. All right, so other things coming up in 2024 for Dev Mentor Dave. You might have noticed, especially this week, since we only dropped one. Well, we actually dropped 9 videos, but we only dropped videos on Monday, which was that series. So you might have noticed that we had a lot of other shorts coming out that were just kind of pieces of those videos. It's been really interesting to kind of see. I've been playing around with that a little bit just to kind of see what kind of traction we can get with those and try to see if that helps, with subscribers and watch time and all that fun stuff that YouTube cares about. But so I'm gonna try to do that a little bit more consistently. If there's a topic that you think would be good for like a 60-second short, I like to talk a lot, so maybe there is no topic that's good for a 60-second short. I don't know, but if you can think of something that might be a quick answer that I could do, or something that just might be interesting, I am thinking about doing more targeted, specific shorts, actually creating shorts. Instead of just pulling them from the videos. I've got one of those like AI things that does all the transcribing and all that stuff. So I'm cheating, which that's okay. But if you've got something that you think would make a good short, let me know. And I might be able to do that too. Cause I am trying to figure out if there's a good way to do some targeted shorts that would be, better, for people than just kind of pulling clips from the other videos. So if you have any ideas, throw them out there as well. Okay. Hey, Mel, welcome. And quick short places to start learning to code for foundation. Yeah. Okay. There's lots of different places. We could definitely highlight a few of them pretty quickly. That might be a good video topic as well, maybe a little bit longer. Actually, I will, in the Developer Odyssey series, there is going to be a video on, where do you start? So we'll definitely talk about some of those topics there. But yeah, that might be a good one. Thanks. Okay. Where am I at here? Okay, live stream. So right now, yeah, good topic. Again, that's probably going to be in our job search series. I don't know if I can do all of that in one shot. Coding recruiters versus applying on LinkedIn versus applying on the company page. That's definitely going to be in that job search series for sure. Okay, so live streams. Like I said, right now we're doing a monthly live stream. I would love to do it more frequently. I don't know that it would work as well for me every week on a Saturday. That one may get pushed to something more like a Monday night or something like that. I know that doesn't work as well for a lot of you based on the poll, for any of you based on the poll, but maybe a Wednesday night. I don't know. We'll see. But I do have some ideas for the live streams. Obviously, live streams, I want to include some question and answer. So if you have any topics, or if you have any questions, you can come in and just leave them in the live stream and we can talk through some of those things. I'll probably have things that I want to talk about as well. In case anybody doesn't have any questions, it'll be a shorter one. but definitely want to try to get some more like Q&A stuff. I don't want this to just be like a bunch of lecturing and things like that. I love live stream because I love the idea of interacting with people. So that's the main thing with the live streams. That's one of the reasons why right now it's going to be monthly, is so that we can have time for people to kind of come and really help us build a community here. Because that's the point. That's the point of the Discord channel. That's the point of the live streams, is to build a community, to build an opportunity for us to engage with one another and get to know one another and enjoy just hanging out and talking about some of these topics, and hopefully being helpful for you guys. So we're definitely going to do monthly, but I do have some ideas for a weekly live stream. And this is something that I don't know when it's going to start. I'm hoping maybe March or April. I'm sorry. I'm hoping Yeah, March or April is my goal, but it just depends on how busy I am and you know how things are going with the channel and things like that. What I'd really like to do is do a weekly live stream where we actually walk through the whole process of a project. Um, Now that might sound really boring to you, and I'm not talking about like literally spending every part of it writing all the code. We're not going to I'm not going to just sit there and write all the code on a live stream. That would be, I would find that incredibly boring. Maybe you wouldn't, but I would find it incredibly boring, and I would not want to show you all the mistakes that I make as I'm coding along the way. I want to look better than I actually am, you know. But one of the things that I want to do with that is I want it to be interactive to where it's something that you guys fitness app project. uh, that's awesome, Mel. Thanks. So I want it to be something that you guys can participate in, not so that you can build it for me necessarily, but I want you to kind of get an idea if if you haven't had a job yet, or if you haven't been able to work for a company or worked as a freelancer or something like that. I want you to kind of get an idea of what it looks like to work on a project as if it's like a real world project. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through from the very beginning, from the idea, you know, asking questions that we would ask a client, you know, to figure out, you know, what they actually need, what we need to build, going through scoping projects, going through figuring out what technologies we're going to use, all these different things. This could be a very long live stream series, but I also want to make it something that you guys can participate in too, and something that, for example, when we do get to some of the coding stuff, I want you guys to be able to pull down the repository and actually push code to the repository and actually do some code reviews and things like that online, and walk through those with the actual live stream, so you guys can get a real world feel for what it's like to be a part of a dev team and go through that process. And then we'll actually use some of that opportunity there for some mentoring, and like I said, the code reviews and things like that will give us some opportunity for mentoring as well. But no, this is not just me trying to get you guys to build something for me to make money off of. This will just be a random project that we create. I have a couple of ideas just for me that I'd like to build that would help me. Maybe the fitness app is the right thing to do. I don't know. But we'll talk about all kinds of things. What technology we want to use, front end, back end, frameworks, you know, style, design, you know, should we go templates? Should we do it all by hand? You know, so there's lots of different things, lots of different questions that we'll answer along the way, and that we'll make decisions along the way. Might even put it up for a vote, some of those things, just to see what you guys want to do with it. And we'll see how the project goes. So that's one of the big things that I want to do here in 2024 is kind of take the Dev Mentor Dave channel more than just these videos, you know, these random videos, or even this series, or even the Q&A live streams. I want to give you something that's hopefully weekly, just so everybody can kind of stay consistent with it. But I want to give you something so that you're going to be able to actually see what it's like to be a developer, real world, real time almost, and even give you opportunities to participate in it as if you are a part of the team. So that's the big goal for 2024. Again, I don't know 100% when that's going to start, what that's going to look like completely, but that's kind of where we're headed here. That's one of the big things that I want to do with the channel moving forward. So if you guys have any ideas, I'm not sold on the fitness app, but if you have any other ideas for apps, or just for video series, or if you think that's a great idea, leave me a comment in the chat, or leave me a comment on the video here. Or if you think it's a horrible idea, don't tell me, because we're going to do it anyway. So too bad. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful to you guys. I think it will be. I think it'll be incredibly helpful. The devs that I have mentored in the past, it's one thing to go through training, but it's another thing to actually work on a real project where people are depending on you to get something done. And so depending on how many people want to participate, we might even do multiple teams or projects or something like that. Maybe do a little competition. I don't know. I've got lots of ideas. We'll see how it all gets hammered out. But that's kind of where we're going here in 2024. So hopefully that's interesting to you guys. Hopefully you like the idea. I'm getting some positive feedback here in the chat, so that's good. I appreciate that for sure. Let's see. So that's basically where we're going in 2024. Again, if you're just jumping on, we've talked about a lot of things here over the last almost 40 minutes. So feel free to go back and rewatch it. Some of the earlier stuff, kind of about what we're doing here, what we're going to be doing in 2024. Got the big exciting pseudo announcement out there for this project related live streams whenever we can get that started. So if you are not subscribed, click the subscribe button, join, so you get notified every time that we do something like this, or a video gets put out, or one of the community polls gets put out. That's another thing we did earlier, was look at some of the polls that we've done and discuss some of those things. If you have not hit the like button, please hit the like button. That helps YouTube just know that people are interested in this content, and hopefully we'll push it out to other people even after it's over. So please hit the like button. There's only 3 likes. Anyway, there's more of you in here than there are likes. So please hit the like button. There we go. Okay. So, also, don't forget to join the Discord channel after I fix the link. I'll leave a comment on this video after I fix the link, so everybody knows they can go back in and join the Discord channel. It's also on the more recent videos. You can find the Discord link. I think it's actually on, let's see. Is it one of my, no, it's not one of my links. I'll make sure I add that link to the about information too, so people can find it there on the channel as well. So sorry about that link being bad. Thanks, Cody, for checking it out for me. Excuse me. More coffee. This is, my wife got me a nice big coffee mug, so I'm very grateful for it, especially on working days. So all right, so let's jump in and see any questions that you guys have. There's a question here from Mel. What kind of projects do you normally work on? So I'm a web application developer. So, and that's really my preference. I prefer to build applications that work on the web. So that's the easiest way of saying it. Basically, so you kind of have websites, right? Which would be like devmentordave.com, right? So it's just a web page, that tells you about that company or about that organization or that topic or whatever it is, right? You could also include like forums and things like that. That's just a website. Even things like, Facebook really is more of a website than an application, but you can argue that. What I actually work on right now are applications, excuse me, applications that people typically use for their company, for their job. So that we would be developing something that would help them with some of their processes. So make sure maybe you have a process that you think should be automated, or it should be easier for your people to work through. You're wasting a lot of time doing kind of the same things over and over and over again. So I build software really to kind of help with a lot of those types of things. So most of the software that I build these days is for actual other companies, kind of business to business software. But we do build some applications and things like that are for end user consumers as well. But yeah, so that's most of what I do is application develop. So I do a lot of, building dashboards and workflows and things like that. So, and that's what we're going to do as a group. We're going to do, the project that we're going to do is going to be more of an application. It's not going to be a website. Early on when I started, I was actually building websites with WordPress. So there's a poll, if you want to go back and look at it, there's a poll in the community channel where we have lots of varying opinions about WordPress. But if you're not familiar with WordPress is a CMS, a content management system, for originally for blogging basically, but it's grown much beyond that to where you can add plugins and themes and all kinds of things. And so I used to be a theme developer, theme and plugin developer for WordPress websites. That was kind of my first real job. The first thing that I actually did though was build applications. It's probably why I enjoy applications more than anything. That was really the first thing that I built. So yeah, thanks, Eddie. It is a big cup. So I enjoy building things that I know people are going to use and that are going to help them do something better, right? So I want to build something that's going to make somebody else's life easier down the road. You know, there might be a little learning curve, you know, when we're building it. And that's one of the things I like about the company that I work for is that we build custom software. So we build something specifically designed for the people who are going to be using it, right? So we're a lot of times, you know, people buy these really expensive pieces of software that do, you know, they do one specific thing, something like Salesforce or something like that. That allows you to manage your sales, manage your contacts and things like that. And so, but it's even though it's supposed to be flexible, a lot of companies end up having to kind of force the way they do things into how it wants you to work. Well, building custom software lets you kind of work the way that you want to work or work the way that's best for you and your organization. And so that's what I do for a living is I build custom software. I've pretty much done that really since the beginning outside of my first learning HTML. So all right, Eddie, feel free to steal our ideas. It's out here on the internet, so anybody can. um, but yeah, so I do web application development, and it's just the difference between application development and web application development is this is something that's accessible on the web. So you go to, you know, devmentordave.com, and that's an application versus just a website, or versus an application on your computer. Because you may be on here, you may be like, you know, I don't necessarily want to build web applications. I want to build something that runs on my computer. Well, that's a kind of a different type of development, but obviously a lot of the same stuff carries over from a learning perspective and from a programming perspective. So it's just different languages, different implementation as far as that goes. I don't personally design a lot of UI. You don't really want, I'm not a designer. I'll just put it that way. You don't want me, I'm not going to make you anything pretty. This is, let me show you this real fast. So like this stuff is, this is the extent of my design skills, people. This is a lot of work. This is like hours of work hoping that it looks okay. So all of these, I do my own video thumbnails. So you know, if you go back and look at you know, these things. Now, I will tell you, most of the pictures are from like stock photos. Obviously, I don't take I don't take these pictures, you know. But I you know, I do like the layovers, and I can do some manipulation of things here and there. But honestly, you know, I do all of it, but it's very simple. I'll put it that way. I do it all, but it's very simple. You don't want me designing your website or your web application. Usually if I'm developing an application, I will use a framework, or I'll use a template or something like that. And again, we're going to talk about some of those things in an upcoming video, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here necessarily jumping into details on that. We can maybe in a future live stream as well if we want to do that on a specific topic. But I find I'm just not that creative of a person. That's one of the reasons why I like the back end probably a little bit more than the front end. I'm just not like super creative, and man, I can design something that looks really cool. That's not me. So I use what I see from other people, and I use templates and things like that to help me. And sometimes I'll mix and match it. And I can look at something and say, and know that it doesn't look good, but I can't tell you why it doesn't look good. I can just tell you it doesn't look good. Yeah, there you go, Eddie. It doesn't have to look nice as long as it works, right? That actually is very true. Now, if you've got something that you're trying to sell, you do want it to look nice, because the average consumer, eye candy is a real thing for a consumer. But especially when you're building business applications, it does not have to be super slick. It needs to work well. It needs to do the thing that people want it to do. Excuse me. At the end of the day, that's really, from a programming standpoint, that's really what the whole goal is to build something that people use, and that makes their life easier. Excuse me. So I might have to switch over to water here. Hang on. So yeah, that's what I do. I don't really do UI. Um, Magenta and lime green go well together. Is that what my colors are? I don't know. I like that color. I like that color fade, but I don't know what it is. So maybe those are the right colors. Let's see. Hey Matt, nice to see you. Let's see. Very new to this. I read that Wix, WordPress, Webflow are bad for your learning because they remove the need to learn code. What are your thoughts? Oddly enough, I actually have a video on that. So you can go watch it, and I'm not going to answer. No, I'm just kidding. I'll answer you now. It's right here. WordPress destroys careers. This is a couple months ago. This is one of my earlier videos, so the quality may not be as good as it currently is. But I would. I'm mixed on this, because I actually do like WordPress. I'm not a huge fan of Wix necessarily. I've never used Webflow, but like I said, I've been a WordPress developer myself. So I'm a little mixed here, because I do have some bias towards WordPress. I do enjoy it for the right things. Excuse me. I would say if you are building basic websites, I would use something like WordPress, just because it's faster. It's faster to build, and once you learn WordPress, though, so that's part of the caveat. You learn WordPress, and then you can do things like that faster, but there is a learning curve for WordPress too, right? So, in fact, I taught a short course for a company a couple years ago now, which was HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, and then also WordPress. That's a lot of things to squeeze into 14 weeks, by the way. But WordPress, so it's good for what it does. And I typically use it. DevMentorDave.com is a WordPress website. I use it to build something very quickly. That's just going to be kind of a website thing. I don't prefer it for building anything more than basic websites. So if you're wanting to add lots of different functionality to it, to me, that's where there's lots of plugins and things that add some cool functionality, but that's where WordPress kind of goes off the rails, and it's not really designed for that. It just isn't, it's not what it's for, basically. And so I would encourage you to learn it, because I think it can be helpful for maybe some quick jobs building websites for people, but I would not pursue that necessarily as a career. One of the reasons I wouldn't pursue it as a career is because there's a lot of competition in that world, because it's pretty easy to get into. And so a lot of times you're just going to get undercut if you're trying to make good money doing it. There's a lot of people who will do it for less. And that's nothing against them. That's just a reality of the situation. So I just don't see it as a great career builder. But it is something that I'm thankful for, that I use. It can hurt you, though. Back to your question, it can hurt you, because it all is, drag and drop. Like, I have a theme that I use called Divi. Everything's drag and drop, manipulate sliders. Maybe I'll show it to you one of these days. But it's so simple that you don't have to think about necessarily any coding aspects. So you really do, if you use it a long time, you really do lose some of your coding chops, so to speak. In fact, I actually have a gal that I was in one of my classes. Um, I've interacted with her since several times, dealing with, just offering some mentoring things and some questions that she's had here and there. And she got a job right away working on WordPress. Um, she wasn't doing themed or app or plugin development. She was just building websites with WordPress. And she actually told me about a year after she started that she felt like she needed to go back and relearn a lot of the stuff, especially the actual programming stuff like JavaScript. But even like some CSS stuff, she needed to go back and relearn that just because she's not actually using it every day. Now, if you're dealing with WordPress and you're actually building themes from scratch in PHP and HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or if you're building plugins to do some of those things, that could be a little bit better. Could be a little bit better pay for WordPress work. But a lot of people, when they're using WordPress, they're just using it to build the sites, um, and they're using these other plugins to make it easy for them, so they don't have to do that. But if you can actually still keep your coding skills up to speed if you're actually building plugins and themes. But if you're not doing that, I wouldn't recommend it as a long-term strategy. I would say learn it just to kind of see what it's like, but don't pursue that if you're really looking to be a developer full time. So sorry, that was a really long response, and a lot of that is in that video. I think there's a little bit more in there too. It's a little bit more succinct, maybe even just my ramblings here this morning. But yeah, go check that out. It says WordPress destroys careers, but here's a simple fix. So that's the title of it if you're looking for it. Let's see. Yeah, sometimes Mel, sometimes switching languages is helpful, especially if you're brand new to learning it. There's just concepts in programming that can be hard to grasp, right? I've actually been off and on trying to teach my kids different aspects of programming. We started with some basic HTML, CSS, and just started JavaScript, and then I jumped them actually over to PHP. And it is interesting watching them as they're trying to learn, the different things that they're struggling with, just some of the concepts that they're struggling with. So, yeah, sometimes maybe moving to a different language will help with that. Even just a different teacher maybe at times can help explain things a little bit better in a way that you understand a little bit better. So I don't know if you're actually like going to classes for it, or if you're watching tutorials, or how you're learning that, but maybe trying to come at it from a different perspective will help with some of that understanding as well. So that might be another option. But yeah, sometimes there are some things in programming that don't necessarily correlate to real life. There's a lot of things that do, and you can use examples from real life to explain things. But yeah, there are some things that are a little abstract and hard to understand. So I definitely understand, where you're coming from there. Let's see here. Yeah, green and blue. That's what I call it, green and blue. I don't know if, I guess, is magenta? I don't know. Is that like a reddish? See, I'm not the UI person. You do not want me developing your UI stuff. First web page was in magenta with a line border form. Okay, nice. Yeah, Matt, really that's what it comes down to. If you don't use it, you lose it. And really that's the thing with all of development, right? The more you use it, the more it just becomes a part of you, right? I mean, it's the same way with anything that you're working on. If you're, learning an instrument, I have, it's in my bag, but I have a guitar here, and I have learned to a specific point of guitar, and I probably will never go any further than that because I don't spend time trying to learn it anymore. I'm content with where I am. And so if I don't keep working at it, I'm never going to get better than I currently am. And it's really the same way with with development, and it's almost worse with development because everything changes all the time. It's always constantly changing. It's getting different. Now we've got AI tools and AI pieces of this whole situation. So thanks, Mom. Pinkish purple. Um, so yeah, but yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it, and it's the same thing with like everything else. The more you use it, the better you're going to get at it, um, and the easier it's going to be, down the road. So absolutely. Uh, what projects would you recommend to help prevent skill decay? That's a good question. I think I don't think there's like one specific project or group of projects that I would recommend. And this is a video that I'm hopefully going to record this afternoon, maybe for Monday. This comes down to that tension between passion and pragmatism, right? So this is a question that I've gotten a lot, and that's why I want to do a video on it here. But should I pursue my passion when it comes to development, or should I pursue the things that are going to get me a job? Basically, I think when it comes to preventing skill decay, that's a great place where passion can come out, where it may not be able to come out in other areas of your development career. So if you have something that you specifically want to learn, that's going to help you prevent decay in your skills, because you're going to be pursuing learning something. You're going to be working to learn that. So I think that really is the key to it. It's not so much a specific project as it is a specific passion, as it is something that's pushing you forward. It's making you want to grow and want to learn more and want to keep going. The skills thing, a lot of it is just usage. But even that, it's not necessarily skills decay, but sometimes your skills can get out of date if you're not keeping up with some of the more recent things. For example, I am not a React dev. I've used it a little bit, just playing around with it here and there. I actually wrote a little video maker thing application just for fun, with a plug, because the plugin that I had was written in React. And so I learned a little bit of React for that, but that's not my staple. I honestly don't really like it, but we have a project we have several projects actually at work right now that are React. And so I'm actually working on my skills with React to try to understand it better and get better at it, get faster at it. So I think there's lots of like outside things that will help you prevent decay of your skills that aren't necessarily just like a specific project. I would say if you're looking for a project, think about something that that would be helpful to you, right? So one of the projects that I'm wanting to work on, that we might work on together, we'll see, is a very simple budgeting app. Now, there's all kinds of budgeting apps out there, right? So I'm not looking to build something that somebody else is going to buy necessarily, right? Or that I'm even going to offer to anybody. But I have a specific way that I like to do my budget that that works with the way that I get paid and all kinds of things like that. That isn't maybe necessarily the same way that most people want to handle their budgets. And so I've been using one product and it works okay, but I don't really like the way it works. So I want to build something for myself that's going to work the way that I want it to work. And for me, that's a good way for me then to explore some of these other things. So maybe I'll work on it in React, or maybe I'll work on it with something that's a newer technology that I haven't learned yet. Something like that. So that gives me an opportunity to keep my skills from decaying. It gives me something that I'm passionate about. And it also gives me an opportunity to potentially learn some new things along the way too. So you can kind of get all of those things if you just look at your own life and see what works better for you. Another thing that my wife has been asking for a while, and I still haven't done it. Maybe we'll do this project. But she wants a family calendar. Well, there's lots of calendar apps out there, but she wants something that works the way that she wants to do a family calendar. So there you go. That's something that I probably should have written a long time ago, and I haven't. But that's another project, right? So just looking at your own life and seeing, what would be helpful, what would be beneficial to you. That's what I would do to keep my skills from decaying, especially if you're like in a process where you're looking for a job, and you're a junior developer, so you're not. It's just a hard time to get a job right now, and you need something like that to keep your skills up. I would go. I would go in that direction, because if you build something that you find beneficial and helpful, there is a good chance that others would find it beneficial and helpful as well. So I know a lot of people really push this idea of junior devs, build something real, build something that other people are going to use, build something to sell is kind of the idea. And while I understand where they're coming from on that, and to some degree I agree with that, not everybody's good at business, right? There's a reason why I'm not in business for myself. I'm just not. I don't feel like I'm a good business person. I don't necessarily have the ability to go out and sell, especially sales stuff. I'm not a salesman. So I'm not going to go out there and do a good job of selling an application that I build. So that's just the thing, with that concept that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, but you could still pursue that, right? You could still build something that works for you and then release it out in the world, maybe even charge for it, go through the process of building in, subscriptions for it or something like that, or even just a one-time payment to get access to it, whatever. So there's lots of opportunities there, especially if you're not able to get a job right now as a junior developer. Those are some ways to keep your skills up to date, but also maybe potentially open up opportunities down the road. So nice, Eddie. Yeah, productivity app. Laravel's awesome. I actually learned Laravel. For those of you who don't know, Laravel is a backend PHP framework. And I'll mention that when I talk about frameworks here in a couple of weeks in the Developer Odyssey series. But yeah, I actually learned Laravel several years ago, back on version 4, I think it was. It's on version 10 now. But that's what we use. That's kind of the main thing that we use at the company that I work for. And I've really loved getting back into that ecosystem. There's just a lot of great stuff there. So, yeah, thumbs up on the Laravel for sure, Eddie. Let me see if I've missed anything else here. Yeah, thinking like a programmer. That's a good reality check, right? Yeah, quitting is easy. It's easy to say, well, I can't do it, right? And I want to be careful, because while I love programming, I think a lot of people can be developers. I think a lot more people could do it than think they could do it. But the reality is there are some people that just can't. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that, and I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that you just need to work harder, right? Um, some people just can't do it. Um, but I think if you have a passion for it and a desire for it, and you've spent months learning it, you probably can do it. You probably can do it. You probably just have some roadblocks here and there. For example, like you said, thinking like a programmer, really the key to thinking like a programmer is just problem solving. We spend most of our time actually thinking about how to fix something than we do actually writing the code for it. Now, sometimes we have to go back and rewrite code because we thought about it some more and thought of a better way of doing it. But at the end of the day, really, it's mostly about thinking. It's a problem solving situation. Excuse me. I think it's one of the reasons why I like application development, because what you're doing is you're solving a problem, right? You're solving a problem for somebody, for a company or for an individual, to make it easier for them to do their job, to make it faster for them to do their job. And so part of that is understanding their job. Part of that is being able to consolidate what they do and try to find better workflows, try to find faster ways of doing it, and then just writing the code to make that happen. So at the end of the day, the writing of the code part, while that's the biggest learning curve, I think, the most important part of it is learning to think like a programmer, learning to think, okay, how do I tell this computer to do the things that I want it to do? And really what that comes down to is learning how to give instructions well. If you think about it, I forget if I talked about this on a video recently. I feel like I did. I don't remember. I think I did somewhat recently talk about this, but um, really what programming is giving a set of instructions to the computer to do something. The more precise your instructions are, the better you're going to be able to get that computer to do what you want it to do. And I gave the illustration of, making a sandwich. I always tell junior developers, write out the instructions for making a sandwich. And if your instructions are like 5 to 10 lines long, you're not thinking like a programmer, right? Because a programmer knows I've got to give every single detail. I have to think through every single step in this process to make sure that everything happens exactly the way that I need it to happen. And then I've got to know how to tell the computer to do that. And that's where learning the programming language comes in. But learning to think like a developer really is learning to think, if I'm giving instructions to somebody who is extremely literal, they don't have the ability to think outside the box. All they can do is follow exactly what I'm saying. Can I give them every piece of instruction to get them from point A to point B without having to go back and rewrite it? That's what we do a lot of times. We think through the process, we write some code, and then it doesn't work quite right, and then we got quite correctly, and then we have to go back and look at it and be like, oh, I didn't think about this part of it, so I've got to write instructions for that part of it, right? So that's really what thinking like a programmer is, Eddie, when it comes down to it. It's learning to think through steps, learning to think through what does the computer need to know in order to do things the way that I want it to do them. Because sometimes you can accidentally get to a place, but that doesn't mean you got there the best way. So yeah, learning to think through all those pieces is the key. Let's see here. Yeah, learning quickly versus learning long term. That's a good question. I don't know if it's Ali or Ali, um, but yeah, that's a hard one, right? Because we are people of immediacy, right? We want to change and grow quickly. We want results quickly, and that just doesn't happen in most areas of life. That just doesn't happen. But especially as a developer, especially if you don't have any like background in technology, any background in problem solving for your job, um, or teaching, or things like, there are some skills that translate over pretty well. Math, if you do a lot of math stuff, that translates over pretty well. Um, but yeah, if you don't have something that translates well into programming, it is going to be much more difficult to grasp a lot of those concepts, and not that you can't, you absolutely can. Um, I would personally say I didn't necessarily come from a background that was built for that. Um, Technically, I was driving a car, and I was doing uh, taking calls in a call center. So I don't none of those are really problem solving jobs to jumpstart my career in web development. It was more just kind of an interest for me. But yeah, understand. Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say, Ollie, Ali. Um, Celebrate the small victories. When you learn something, even if it's a small thing, celebrate that, enjoy it. Realize that it is a step in the process, because I think one of the problems that we can have as developers is we have this good end goal, right? This is where I want to be in 6 months. And after 3 months, we don't feel like we're halfway there, even though we're halfway through the time. And so we forget all the things that we have learned to that point, and we just see this goal and we feel like we're never going to get there. And maybe that 6 month goal should have been an 8 month or a 12 month goal. And maybe that's just the reality, but we need to take the successes and the wins along the way. So I always recommend doing something. Maybe it's writing a program, maybe it's just writing a note of what you want to learn. As you're learning new things, make other notes of things that you have learned. If you have a repository, go back and look at some of the commits and the things that you've added to that repository, or multiple repositories that you've developed over time, and you can see the progress that you've made. The very first application that I did for money, it actually ran for like 10 years. The organization that had it, we built a custom piece of software for them, and they used it for like 10 years. And just recently actually moved it into a Docker instance and things like that. I'll explain that sometime, some other time. But I went back when I was moving that piece of software. I went back and looked at the code, and man, that's bad code. that is some awful code. When I look at code that was at this point 15 years old, almost 15 years old. And so going and looking back at some of the old stuff that you've done and seeing where you are now, I think that really helps kind of quell some of those issues of feeling like you're not going fast enough. If you can look back and see the things that you have succeeded at, see the things that you are growing, that you are learning, and that you have learned along the way. You can do things now that you couldn't do 6 months, 9 months, 12 months ago, 2 years ago, depending on how long you've been learning, right? So it's really important to look at what you are doing now compared to what you used to do, which could be nothing, you know? And so you definitely want to look at that and remind yourself of the success that you have had, and that will help. It's not going to be a perfect cure, but I found that is the biggest help when I'm learning something. Looking back and seeing those small successes and making note of those successes along the way, or having some way of viewing them, helps me see that I'm not wasting my time. Even though this is taking longer than I want it to, I'm not wasting my time. Even, something like YouTube here. I look at a video today compared to my earliest videos. The video quality is better because I learned some new things. The editing is better. The editing is faster. I edit videos faster than I did before. So looking at those different things, you can see the small successes. Is it, super professional the way that I'd love, if I could pay somebody else to do it? No, it's not, but I'm working to get there. And, maybe at some point I'll, get my kids involved in it or something like that, and teach them and make them do all the hard work. I don't know. We'll see. But that would be my recommendation: is don't focus as much on where you're at in getting to your goal. Focus on where you've been. So you know that you have been successful, right? So that would be the key. Let's see. Any tips on improving problem solving skills? I feel like I know enough to get by with the actual coding, but sometimes it takes a bit to think of a potential solution to a problem. Yeah, I think, you mentioned it in your next statement there, Dean. Sandwich part, good advice. It doesn't have to be a sandwich, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're probably writing anyways. You're trying to get from point A to point B, so what kind of instructions am I going to give somebody to do this? Whatever this is, maybe it's something that you're more interested in, like, replacing the inner tube on a bicycle wheel, I don't know, write out the steps for that and then go through and be literal, like follow your own steps. So this is where refactoring comes in when it comes to being a developer. right? We go back and we refactor our code because we realize, hey, that code is not very good, right? So let's say, so you write your steps out for replacing the inner tube in a tire. Now you've written them out, go and literally only do the things that you specifically wrote out. All right. So if your instructions start with take the tire off of the rim, that's not a good place to start, because, well, maybe it is. No, you can't do it that way, right? Because you've got to actually take the wheel off the bicycle, because the bicycle gets in the way of being able to put something round on something round, right? So if you go through and literally only follow those steps that you wrote out, what that does is it makes you realize the areas that you missed the first time, right? So you realize the problems, the things that you didn't think about. And so that helps you, again, think through. I think through things much more quickly and better, more accurately now than I did 15 years ago. And part of that's just time, right? It's time. You kind of get through the process over and over and over and over again of knowing, I need to think about this and I need to think about that and I think about this. So I think the best way to improve it is to take those instructions and follow them. Because you can look at those instructions all day long and be like, those are really good instructions. Back when I was writing, the first iteration of code, I looked at that code and I thought that's really good code. But that doesn't mean it's good code. It could need a lot of refactoring. It could be missing some things that I didn't think about. That's one of the reasons why it's good to learn test-driven development. Unfortunately, most companies don't give you the time to do that. Most clients don't give you the time to do that, to add tests to your code. But one of the benefits of writing tests for your code is the act of writing a test should force you to think through some of those scenarios that you need to cover in your code. And when you write a test for that scenario, it'll fail. And so you'll realize, oh, I didn't think through that. But writing the test to determine if your code works is a way of improving your initial thought process along the way as well. You're never going to be perfect at problem solving. That's one of the things that I've learned over 15 years. There's going to be things that come up depending on the different scenario, depending on the different client, their particular issues that they're dealing with. There's always going to be some wrinkle that you just haven't experienced before, that you haven't had to deal with before. And so you're going to have to learn how to think around that, right? You're gonna have to learn how to think through that. So I wouldn't be worried about necessarily improving it. It's going to improve the more you do it. But I think, following your own instructions, and then also learning how to write some tests, unit tests, for like PHP or Java or whatever, that's really helpful to kind of force you to think through some of those scenarios. Yeah, user stories, those can be helpful. I'll be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of user stories, because most of the time user stories are not written from a developer perspective. They're written from a user perspective, hence the term user stories, right? They're written from the idea of, as a user, I want to be able to do X, right? They can often be more high level than you want them to be for problem solving skills. They can be a good starting point though. So I'm not saying don't use them or don't learn it. Actually, we'll discuss some of those things as we go through that project, working through the project together, live stream series eventually here this year in 2024. We're going to talk about ticket creation and story creation, and what are some of the options there and things like that. So yeah, user stories can be maybe a good starting point. I don't think it's going to go that far, but it could be a good starting point. Yeah, honestly, So the translation between, here's the question he's asking is, um, translating the problem solving to code, right? So when you think about programming, there in almost every language there's the same type of scenarios. You've got variables, you've got um, loops, you've got functions. I mean, that's really basically it. So you're assigning values to variables. You're using those variables in different ways. You are um, you're you're looping through data and manipulating it. You're you're writing functions that do specific things that you use then in those loops sometimes that you use in other places. Um, so maybe what I would suggest doing is as you're thinking through the problem, try to envision what parts of those programming pieces, what part of this is just a variable of just information, right? What part of this is a loop that I'm going to need to iterate over and do something with that? What part of this is something that I should pull out as a separate function, because I'm going to need to do that operation multiple times potentially in this code. Um, I haven't actually thought through that a whole lot. That's a good question. I will take that and kind of think what's a good way to think through applying that to code. I think at some point it just becomes natural, the more you do it. But I think that's a good question. That's a good topic. How do you take problem solving and put that into code? Maybe there's some videos out there that somebody's already done that would be helpful. I might take a look around and see if anybody has some good content on that, and if so, maybe I'll post it in a community post or something like that, or if I can think of some good answers, I'll give that to you. But that is a hard question, just off the cuff here, how to do that. That's the only thing that I can think of is try to see what of those programming concepts fit well with my solutions, right? So my solution for handling and handling making a sandwich, right? So I've got a function for spreading peanut butter, right? And so I'm gonna keep spreading peanut butter until, so there's a loop, there's a while loop, right? So I'm gonna keep spreading the peanut butter until the whole surface area is full. Well, now I need some sort of function to validate if the whole surface area is full of peanut butter. I mean, we can get really detailed into this analogy, but that's really the point of that analogy, is to start digging deeper and deeper and deeper in how I think about code. So hopefully that helps. I might see if I can find some other information on that as well. I'm gonna have to wrap up here probably in the next 15 minutes in order to get over to my son's basketball game. So just FYI, we're gonna slow this down here. Lots of great questions though. Thanks for jumping on. We've got 9 concurrent viewers. That's awesome, man. We've had 28 views so far. That's really cool. This is the best live stream so far, which makes sense because we've told people about it for a while. But yeah, so I'm going to shut this down here about 15 minutes at 10 or 11:40 my time, just FYI. So if I don't get to your question, I will try to answer it in a video, or maybe leave it in a comment on the video later this afternoon or something like that. So I do apologize. We'll get to questions earlier in the future on these live streams. Let's see. Yeah, it definitely gets easier. Mel, it gets easier as you try more things. Absolutely. Dimitri, hello. Sorry I missed you earlier. Um, let's see. Learning for 2 years. Feel I'm standing in the middle where I don't know what the program is for me. Although I'm good. I have a good progress. Yeah. Ollie, let me know if it's Ollie or if it's Allie. Sorry. I can't tell from the spelling. I'm thinking Allie, but I'm not sure. Is programming for you? That is a hard question. Yes, thank you, Dimitri. I know we mentioned that earlier. The Discord link is incorrect. I'll fix that as soon as I get off here. Sorry about that. How do I know if it's for me? I think for me, that really comes down to, do you enjoy it? Um, is there something about it that you enjoy? Is there something about it that you enjoy enough that you keep doing it? Um, Even if you feel like you're stuck in the middle, and especially for a lot of junior developers right now, when it's difficult to get into that first job. I know a lot of junior developers are having that problem. There's lots of reasons for it I won't go into right now, but um, that's a time when you can really feel stuck. Um, how do you know that it's for you? I think it comes down to, do is there something about writing code that you like and that you want to do? Um, if it's not something that you want to do, it's not something that you're probably going to get good at, because you're not going to put the time in. You're not going to put the effort in. Um, so that would be my real question. What is your motivation for doing it? If your motivation is only to get a better job, if your motivation is only to make more money, um, those are not those are helpful motivations, but they're not long term motivations. They're not motivations that are necessarily going to help you grow in your that are going to help you want to grow your skill set, right? So, um, but I don't know that you have to love everything, right? I don't love everything about programming. There are some parts of writing code that are extremely annoying. I just don't like them. But they're necessary evils for me to do the things that I do enjoy. And so I would say, if there's something about programming that you still enjoy, and maybe it means that you don't do it as a job. Um, and that sounds weird, to learn programming but not do it as a job. Maybe it's just something that you enjoy and you learn on the side. Um, my father-in-law actually has talked about learning to write some code, um, and I would encourage him to do that. Even though he's retired, he's not looking for a job. Um, I would encourage him to code, because it's good for your mind to learn something new, and it can be difficult and challenging. And um, I think it's good to learn. It's good to learn to something new, and even if you don't actually translate that into a job, if you enjoy it, it's just like any other hobby, right? So you just figure out what kind of time you can spend on it and enjoy learning the things that you want to learn. But if you're looking for it as a job, there has to be something about it that you enjoy, even if it's just, enjoying the ability to build something that people use, right? To me, that's one of the biggest driving forces of the things that I enjoy, not necessarily writing the code itself per se, but building something that I know that's going to benefit somebody, right? That's where I get a lot of my joy from being a developer from. So the code part is kind of the necessary evil there in many ways. Although there's things that I like about it too. But I would say, what is your desire? What do you enjoy? If you're not enjoying it, you feel like it's just a slog, maybe it isn't for you. But if there's something about it that you enjoy, it might be you for a hobby, or it could still be for you for a job. But just realize that, depending on your circumstances, your situation, that the job part of it may look different for you than it looks for other people. It may take a different time for you to get into that opportunity compared to other people. There is no one right answer when it comes to how long it should take for you to learn, how long it should take for you to get a job. There's so many different variables in those questions, that it really is up to you whether you're enjoying what you're doing. And I would say, if you're still enjoying learning, even if your expectations haven't been met so far, but you're still enjoying it, I'd keep pursuing it, because you never know what's going to open up in the future because of that. So let's see here. Yeah, non-native speakers. That's a great question, Dimitri. I actually have worked with a lot of Indian developers. I've worked with quite a few. Spanish speaking developers. And so I've definitely worked with a lot of devs that English is not their primary language. Um, there can be a barrier there, obviously, especially here in the United States. Um, really, the only thing that I can say is just try your best to learn how to communicate your struggle, right? That's the biggest problem that I think, especially junior developers who English is not their first language, they struggle with is communicating when something isn't working the way that they want it to, and communicating what they have done, what they have tried. Um, that is a difficult thing. I don't know that I have a perfect answer for you, unfortunately, Dimitri, other than um, two things. One, obviously work on, learning English better. Um, although it doesn't have to be perfect. I've worked with a lot of developers that had very broken English, but were great developers. So, that isn't necessarily a showstopper, but the more English you can learn, the better. It's just going to be easier to communicate. It's going to be easier for us lazy Americans to communicate with you, and that is part of it. Part of it's just that we're lazy, and it's not very fair, but it is a reality, unfortunately. Um, so I would learn that. The second thing I would do is maybe try to find companies that have people who are bilingual in your native tongue to help with some of that. Again, I would still pursue English, learning English better, but look for opportunities you might be able to find on LinkedIn. Others who are from your home country or native speaking, same language that you speak. Find out how they got involved, where they work, what are some of the things that they've struggled with, what they've learned. Probably would be even the better avenue to go as far as, dealing with that. But yeah, unfortunately, especially dealing with Americans, your best bet's going to be just trying to learn English better, and focus your English. I would focus your English mostly on explaining your code, because at the end of the day, that's the interaction that we're going to have the most, is talking about code, talking about issues that you're having, struggles you're having with your code. So, um, yeah, definitely work on the English side of things. But I would assume most of your code is written in English, so that is helpful to some degree. But I do feel your pain, both uh, understanding what you're going through, but also having worked with many people who have dealt with that. And just to be honest, the best way to handle it is to just get better at speaking English. Unfortunately, um, that is going to be a hindrance for you. Unfortunately, it's going to be a hindrance for interviewing and things like that. Um, yeah, that's tough. I'll have to think about that some more and see if I can come up with some better options for you there. Um, but yeah, that I mean, I think the biggest thing is going to be just learning English better. Uh, Techna, nice to see you. Sorry I didn't see you a little bit earlier there. Hope you're doing well. Been in the workforce for 6, 7 years now, feeling like skills are stagnant. Tried to do personal projects to renew my skills, but job drains me. How do you combat this? Um, I totally get where you're coming from. um, you have to remember that what we do is is a mental drain. Um, and that's why your personal project, if you have one, it has to be something that you're passionate about. It has to be something that you want or need in your life. Um, so passion for it is one of the biggest drivers. Another thing that I would say is for your for your personal projects, treat them as if they are real world projects. So you are your client, right? You are your client and you have a deadline and you need that project done by a certain endpoint. So run that project as you would any other project, and but know that it's going to be different, right? It's going to be longer because you're working on it in off hours, and be reasonable. Be reasonable in the time frames that you set for yourself. Be reasonable in what you think you can actually get done. Um, write tickets for it. Don't just, one of the worst things you can do working on a personal project is not plan it out. Just kind of work on it as you think of things. That's horrible. We don't do that in our real world job. So why would we do that for a project that we want to do on the side? But do something that you're passionate about, that you want to build, plan it out, write tickets for it, use the same process you would, be reasonable in how long things are going to take. Those are the biggest things that I would say. And then maybe I would throw in something that you want to learn, right? So if you want to learn a new JavaScript framework, make that part of the process of what you're building, so that you're forced to build skills along the way. You're forced to learn something. But I think you do have to just be reasonable and understand, hey, I can't do this every night. Maybe it's going to be twice a week, and if it's only twice a week, what can I get done in those 2-3 hours a couple times a week that's reasonable, and plan that out. And that way, another thing that does, again, is it gives you progress that you can see. You can see the tickets that you've got done, and it's not just this random project that I keep playing around with. Treat it as if it's a real world project. Even if you never release it to anybody, nobody else ever sees it, treat it like it's a real project. I think that's the biggest thing to help you continue and grow off the job. If that's one of your focuses, which to some degree it has to be. Hopefully you can get a job at some point that gives you some freedom to do that on the job, or just has projects that give you the opportunity to do that on the job, but that isn't always the case. So unfortunately, you do have to do that on your own a lot of times. So, all right, I've got about 1 minute here. I'm going to shut this down. Let's see. Yeah, again, I'll fix the Discord link here. All right. So thank you everybody for jumping on here. This has been fun. Like I said, we'll do this again in February for sure. I don't know. It's halfway through January, so we probably won't do another one in January, but maybe we can get to 2 in February. We'll see, but we'll do at least 1 in February, and I'll announce it once I have that planned. We'll try again for a Saturday morning. It seems to work pretty well for a lot of you. So, again, if you don't mind, share the link to this and other videos, like the videos, watch the videos, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord after I fix the link below. And yeah, let's build this community. This is fun. I absolutely love interacting with you guys and just talking through some of these things. Even if I don't have the perfect answer, at the time, or ever, then it's still been a joy to say hello to you guys and get to know you guys. And I'm looking forward to doing that more here in 2024. So thank you so much. I will see you all again here in a few weeks, hopefully, and definitely on some videos here coming up this week for the Developer Odyssey series, and then at least 1 or 2 others along the way as well. So thanks again, guys. I will see you all next time. If I can find my logo and actually get to it. See you guys. Thanks.